Test for online. Can you all hear? I'm seeing nods, so we're good. Okay, we're in here for right now, so you guys can hear all the chatter. Thank you. If you have not logged into Open Meetings, please do so. As a reminder to board members in the room and online, please try to log in. We're short about 10. We're slowly coming up right now. We're missing about 10 right now.
My screen is showing that this.
Mike, we do not show you on right now.
You showed Jeff Smith?
Jeff, you're good. Dick
Okay,
Jones,
my
we still
screen
need you.
That's probably what it's supposed to look like then.
Ben, this is Dick Jones. I cannot get in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't see you out here yet. Break's not on yet. So just to be Roger.
Ben, this is Dick. I cannot get in.
1 minute warning.
At this point, we should have on our tablets, please wait till roll call is called, correct?
That's what I see.
Mine
Mine
is just,
says request to speak.
mine is just blank. But they said I did check in.
Supervisor Smith, we're showing you as logged in.
Yeah, my screen's just blank.
I guess I can mark them. I can mark them manually. Everyone that's here is, it's just a few that are not.
Call this meeting to order. There may be some technical glitches yet. Is this? I'm not on. That's the first technical glitch. I'll just talk loud. So I'll say.
No.
There you go.
There you go.
Hear me? Can you hear me now?
If you're right up on it,
Can you hear me now?
barely. Can you hear us? Huh?
I heard somebody.
There it is. Hello?
We can hear you, Dwayne.
Can you hear me?
Test 1, 2.
You can.
Yeah.
I mean, you can.
Use this temporarily
That's
at least.
better.
Call this meeting to order. Roll call by the county clerk.
Audrey, I'm here. Supervisor Jones.
Thank you.
Mike Kelly here.
Yep,
David here.
thank you.
Mary
Yeah.
Roberts here. I can't see my name, but I'm here. Oh, there, I did it. Yay.
He never got the green screen.
We have 26 present and 4 absent.
Steve just is not connected.
Audrey, I'm here. Showing it absent.
Is it Mike? Yeah.
Thank you.
Restart the app. Restart the app.
Would have been in.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. This. I didn't. Follow me.
We have 27 present and 2 absent.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Could you please rise? Lloyd Zastor, would you lead us tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a second of silence to contemplate issues this evening. Thank you very much. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
We're in compliance, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. I will entertain a motion to the agenda?
So moved.
So moved by, I saw Richard Schultz, Mr. Backlund, second. Any further discussion, additions, subtractions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Approval of the February 12th, 2021 meeting minutes. Supervisor Renard,
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
who's the second? Get second with Paulson. Supervisor Paulson, any discussion? Changes? Anything anybody catches in these that we missed? Seeing none, entertain a vote to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Communications.
First is a zoning committee notice of public hearing, which is March 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in room 205. And then the next thing should be the treasurer's report, which is printed on green paper.
Thank you very much. Special order of business. Supervisor Morris.
This is a presentation on changes that we are making regarding the Jefferson County Alcohol Treatment Court. And I'm going to read the document, the page that is here, and then we have our judges who are responsible for the operation of this committee, and they can answer any questions that you might have. The Jefferson County Alcohol Treatment Court was created in 2014 with the goal of reducing recidivism rates for nonviolent OWI offenders, thereby increasing public safety and reducing prison and jail populations. These goals have been accomplished through the collaborative efforts of the court, district attorney, public defender, Department of Corrections, Human Services, the Sheriff's Department, county administration, contracted case management agency, and other local stakeholders. These justice system partners have worked to provide intensive treatment, monitoring, case management, and support to repeat OWI offenders in our community. As a result, the community has benefited from reduced recurrence of dangerous OWI behavior by program graduates. Through December 2020, the Jefferson County Treatment Court has managed 119 repeat OWI offenders. Of these, 85 have successfully graduated from the program. Furthermore, of those who have graduated, only 6 have reoffended with a new OWI offense. This is a significant reduction of risk of these graduates have posed to the community since they successfully graduated from the program. Over the last year, the Alcohol Treatment Court has seen a decrease in the number of program participants from a high of 29 to the current caseload of only 11. This decrease in participation is a result of 3 factors. First, COVID-19 pandemic has meant a decline in the number of eligible cases coming through the system during the beginning of pandemic restrictions. Second, recent changes in state law regarding OWI 5th and 6th offenders require this population to serve a prison term, and this removes roughly half of otherwise eligible defendants. Finally, many eligible OWI 3rd and 4th defendants are choosing not to accept a plea agreement involving alcohol treatment court due to a lack of incentive to participate in the program. Specifically, this involves higher in-custody conditional jail time than the mandatory minimum. The Jefferson County Community Justice Collaborating Council and the treatment court team have looked at ways to increase the incentives for program acceptance. Specifically, the Waukesha County incentive structure, as outlined in the table below, reduces the conditional jail time to the mandatory minimum, but imposes and stays a longer period of jail for those failing to complete the program. And you can see the chart that's there. On the back side of the paper, These proposed changes are designed to accomplish two goals. First, OWI third and fourth defendants would be incentivized to accept a disposition involving alcohol treatment court by having to serve substantially less jail time up front. The lack of reduction of jail time in the current structure has been cited many times by defendants as the primary reason defendants reject alcohol treatment court. Second, the proposed changes carry known and certain consequences for those who do not complete the program successfully. Currently, not all participants who drop out or are terminated from the program will have their supervision revoked. This lack of certainty serves as a disincentive to successfully complete the program. The proposed structure provides the alcohol treatment court a mechanism independent from the Department of Corrections revocation procedure to impose additional confinement time for those who do not successfully complete the program. Additionally, under the proposed changes, participants will know in advance the consequence of failing to complete the program and that this consequence is a certainty. The CJCC and the Jefferson County Treatment Court team believe these changes will increase the likelihood that OWI third and fourth defendants will choose to participate in alcohol treatment court. These changes will also provide participants and the community with known and certain consequences for failure. These changes will serve to continue providing repeat OWI offenders with the services necessary to address and change the underlying causes of their behavior while continuing to protect the community. So the CJCC is making changes to our treatment structure. They will mirror what is being done in Waukesha County. The purview of this really belongs only to our committee. But we felt it important to bring it before the board so that they know, and we have our judges here to answer any questions that you might have regarding this.
Do you have any questions for Supervisor Morris or our judges? We have as Judge Brantmeyer, Judge Deering here tonight?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Judge Brantmeyer's here. I'm the current treatment court judge in the county. As Supervisor Morris indicated, this is a CJCC issue, and they'll make the decision. And this is what the team is recommending in order to increase the participants and make the alcohol treatment court more attractive to potential participants. It in essence gives a big carrot with jail time at the front of it, but it also has a big hammer in the event of not following through. And Judge Deering's here as well. He's the head of the CJCC right now. I also wanted to add that I'm going to be proposing to the CJCC that they allow a family treatment court component in the next grant application process with the county, and I wanted to let the supervisors know of that. I know it was mentioned already in a report earlier, but I'm hopeful that the family treatment court can be integrated into our existing alcohol and drug treatment court. I'm the juvenile judge, Chapter 48 CHIPS judge in the county right now, Children in Need of Protection and Services. 82% of my caseload, 82% of my caseload is because of parental sobriety issues, either drugs or alcohol. And I think that it's time to focus on the children. It's a public safety and focus in trying to keep the kids safe. But that's a different story. I just wanted to plug that so the supervisors weren't surprised when they may see that coming as a note from the CJCC that our grant application has expanded to include a possible family treatment court component. Thank you. Judge Deering.
Thanks, Judge. I'm Judge Deering. As Judge Brantmeyer said, I'm head of the CJCC committee. You might ask yourself, well, if the CJC is doing this, why are we here tonight? And the obvious answers to that is the county board is obviously a very important partner and a stakeholder in what we're doing. And we certainly want your input and hopefully your backing about this proposal. The key here is getting people into the program because we know that once you get into the program, those who graduate, and about 71% are graduating are not going to reoffend, and that's what you want here. No matter where you sit on the spectrum regarding this issue, whether you just look at the dollars, whether the cost of having to deal with reoffenders is what what is the bottom line, or for any other reason, it makes sense to adapt our ways in order to keep this program strong, because once they're in, they won't, and they graduate, they likely won't reoffend. It makes sense to give an incentive to get in the program so this can happen. And like Judge Brantmeyer said, you have a hammer on the back end instead of maybe getting revoked and maybe getting a stiff sentence if you don't complete it. If you don't complete it, you will get that. I think that's important. And the Waukesha model has been working well, and I think that it's time for us to go that way. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you have too.
Is there any questions for Supervisor Backman?
Hi, just got a question. Is this not available for like first and second offenders? I mean, why are we waiting until the third time, I guess is my question.
I could answer that, and that is because the penalties are not severe enough to make it even attractive for first and second offenders. So I think until the legislature imposes stricter penalties on first and second offenders, it won't be attractive to those first and seconds. And that's why we're looking at third and fourth right now, because of legislative change making fifth and sixth no longer an option.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
I would agree with that, and also statistically, the vast number of first-time offenders don't receive a second. That's usually their only time in court, and I think the calculus or the analysis starts once you hit the second. So I think, I agree. That's a great question.
Other questions? Seeing none, I don't believe this requires any actions. This is more informative for the board. So thank you very much. Thank you, judges, for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay all evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
And we have public comment for items that are on the agenda. John Ebbett, please come right up to the front, John, and you can use this mic. Use this mic up here. Hopefully that one works. Otherwise, I'll get the mic.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this. On December 29th or 30th, the county snowplow obliterated my mailbox. There was no need at all for that. And the county snowplow is the only one that could have done it. So I filed a notice of claim with the county for the cost, my time and the cost of repair of the mailbox, which I had to get done right away, obviously. And my understanding is that's going to be denied. And one of the reasons is that the county is not liable for this kind of action. I didn't check the statutes. I don't know whether that's because of sovereign immunity or some other or a specific statute. But if the county is not liable for this, then nobody's liable. And so this kind of destruction goes on without any accountability, without any consequences, without any responsibility, except for the homeowner who pays the taxes that supports the county highway department and the snowplow and the operators that run the snowplow. So I don't understand, even if legally speaking, technically, the county's not liable because of some doctrine like sovereign immunity, I would think the county would agree to pay homeowners the damages that result from their county trucks, the taxpayer-supported county trucks, totally destroying mailboxes. So if the other part of this is, I don't understand why this has to happen, and I would think that the county highway department and the highway committee of the board would make sure that snowplow operators wouldn't do this, that there would be training and there would be information that would ensure that snowplow operators wouldn't just drive along and wipe out mailboxes. I know it's not a huge item, but it's significant, I think, because why do I pay taxes to someone who then comes along and wipes out my mailbox, which of course is for the federal mail, and then the county says, well, I'm not responsible, you're on the hook yourself. And I assume I'm not the only homeowner whose mailbox gets wiped out in the winter, and it seems to me that there's some basic things that operators could do to avoid hitting the mailbox. So thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moves us to the executive committee. Supervisor Renard, resolution?
Resolution number 2020-47. Entering into a joint development agreement with Crawfish River Solar LLC and the town of Jefferson to construct and operate a solar photovoltaic electrical generating facility. Crawfish River Solar LLC desires to develop, construct, and operate an up to 75 megawatt solar photovoltaic electrical generating facility with necessary associated facilities such as underground power collection lines, access roads, operating and maintenance facilities, electrical substations, and overhead transmission line connections in Jefferson County, which includes Jefferson Township. Crawfish River has agreed to enter into a joint development agreement with Jefferson County and the town of Jefferson to address impacts to the town and county created by the construction and operation of a solar photovoltaic electrical generating facility. This joint development agreement was negotiated with input from the executive committee, which included public comment as well as input from the town of Jefferson. Items addressed in the joint development agreement include setback, plan review, transportation impact, drainage impact, vegetation management, noise parameters, land use studies, revenue, and fiscal impacts. On December 8th, 2020, a draft of this agreement was introduced to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors for review and comment, but no action was taken at that time. The Executive Committee considered the joint development agreement at its meeting February 24th, 2021, and recommended forwarding this resolution and the attached joint development agreement to the County Board to authorize the county administrator to enter into a joint development agreement with Crawfish River Solar LLC to construct and operate a solar photovoltaic generating facility in Jefferson County. The fiscal note: Jefferson County and the town of Jefferson will no longer receive property tax revenue on the land used for operation of the solar photovoltaic electrical generating facility, but will receive payments in lieu of taxes from the state of Wisconsin in the form of shared utility tax revenue, which will exceed the amount of lost tax revenue. I move for approval of this resolution.
A second. Second from Supervisor Morris. Questions, discussion? You have a copy of this in your packet. And an FYI, this is very similar to the JDA that was passed on a previous Badger Solar across the street, across the road. Anything? Any questions? Supervisor Renard.
Just on the motion, I know all of you have read this very carefully and compared it to the first version that you saw in December, but it has changed a little bit. And I would like to ask our Corporation Counsel, Mr. Ward, to talk about how this version differs from even the one that the Executive Committee saw.
Mr. Ward. Oh, absolutely.
The Executive Committee approved a version of this agreement with the understanding that there may be some minor adjustments following approval by the Executive Committee on February 23rd. Since then, we've entered into further negotiations with Crawfish River, receiving some of the most recent requests yesterday and finalizing it. So we were trying to move this along, but as is the nature of these types of agreements, sometimes things don't move along as quickly as we would otherwise like. So that's why you have the last minute changes, and that's why what you received in your packet is slightly different than what you received tonight as a handout. And there's 3 areas I'm going to go over with you. Your agreement has page numbers on it throughout the entire, the county board packet has page numbers on it. And the first part of the agreement that I'd like to go over is numbered page 17. I'm going to give you a few seconds to turn to page 17 of your county board packet. I don't know if the hard copy was numbered as well, but if you want to go to your county board packet, I think you can easily follow along with the version that was provided to you in the original packet. The first request from Crawfish River deals with the vegetative buffer. On page 17, you should see a subsection E titled the vegetative buffer. And if you go down, there's a subparagraph 3, starting with Crawfish River agrees. They asked that the language that was in parentheses be deleted. And that language in parentheses was pollinator habitat comprised of long stem grass and flowering plants. They wanted to put a period at the end of native plants regarding the vegetative buffer in that area. And when I discussed why they wanted that language deleted, they said they simply wanted to have more flexibility. I consulted with our planning and zoning director, and he was satisfied as long as they would use native plants in this area, that he would be fine with deleting the language pollinator habitat comprised of long stem grass and flowering plants. It gives them more flexibility, but also prohibits them from bringing in any type of invasive species into the area to accomplish what is required under sub E3. The second change that we discussed is on page 18. Paragraph 7, titled Assignment of Interest. At the end of that paragraph, language was deleted regarding local governments having the right to designate the amount and type of assurances required in this agreement if there is a sale. Decommissioning was the big topic of conversation, to make sure that there was enough money set aside and the bond was big enough for any decommissioning expenses to be completely covered. And they asked for this to be deleted because the language in this agreement in paragraph 5 basically has a reevaluation of the costs for decommission regularly. And the fact that whoever owns it isn't a particular concern. In other words, decommissioning is going to cost however much it costs, regardless of who owns it. That was their position. And and the fact that it is evaluated on a regular basis as far as what the costs are. If they go up, then the decommissioning assurances need to go up. There needs to be more money held for decommissioning. And if they go down, then that would also be an option as well. But the key is, it's not something that we're going to enter into today and forget about and revisit 40 years from now. It's going to be something that's going to be looked at regularly. So we agreed to propose that to the county board. And again, no changes have been made. This is before the county board for approval. So when I talked with Crawfish River, my agreement was that I would present this to the county board for approval, and this agreement would be subject to the board approval. Nothing was agreed to as of yet. And the final change in this agreement, which is different from what was in the county board packet, is on page 19, also at the bottom. Last few sentences regarding insurance. Crawfish River is required to maintain insurance on the property. The agreement gives Crawfish River the ability to self-insure. The language that they wanted changed was that if the facility was sold, the county could require the new owner to purchase insurance commercially on the market, just by a sale, regardless of what that new owner was, regardless of who that new owner was, and regardless of what kind of credit rating that new owner had. Crawfish River intends to sell the facility to Alliant Energy, and they're a public utility. They have a high credit rating, and they wanted language in there basically saying if they sell it to a public utility with a certain credit rating, which is described in your handout, let's see, with a credit rating of Baa2 or better from Moody's Investors Service or BBB or better from Standard and Poor's, then any purchaser with that credit rating would not need to purchase its own insurance. It could self-insure. And we felt that was a reasonable request and agreed to that change. So those are the three changes that need to be discussed. I don't see them as being substantive changes, but nonetheless, they need to be addressed. And the county board needs to understand what changes have been made since the executive committee approved forwarding this agreement to the county board for approval. That's all I have to summarize the changes. Are there any questions?
Supervisor Morris.
So we have a motion and an amendment. How should we move forward?
I recommend moving to amend the proposed joint development agreement as presented in the handout.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? We have a motion. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Questions? Supervisor Martin.
Which maybe I shouldn't even use that word, but if the facility is sold, then there still is a requirement that the new owner would provide the county with documentation that there is the appropriate level of insurance.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, is that in the contract?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Other questions? Supervisor Smith, it came up on my board here temporarily that you had a question.
I did not.
Okay. Okay, that's just a little computer glitch, I guess. All right, good enough. Any other questions? Any other questions? I believe we can do this with Supervisor Morris.
Just again, if I'm correct, then Amy made a motion and I seconded it.
Mhm.
Then I motioned for an amendment and Amy seconded it.
True.
So we're going to vote on the amendment and then we're going to vote on the original motion.
Correct. That's right. We're moving this contract, exactly.
So letting everybody know that that's correct.
So essentially, that's what we're doing. We're voting on the amendment first. Any questions again on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we're voting on the resolution. And we have a motion to approve the resolution already from Renard and a second by Supervisor Morris. So any questions on the resolution itself, just on the amendment? Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is adopted. Second resolution by the Executive Committee, Supervisor Payne would like to read this one. Supervisor Payne?
Thank you. Resolution number
48.
48. Executive summary. Over the last several years, Jefferson County has continued to evaluate the condition of county facilities to ensure that its long-term operational needs are being addressed. This has included the courthouse, sheriff's office, jail, the courthouse facility, highway facilities, and South Campus operations, primarily focused on health and human service operations. During the evaluation process, it was determined that the courthouse, including the sheriff's office and jail, are most in need of renovation and upgrades. The courthouse was built in various phases starting in 1961, with additions in 1966 and 1991. Today, much of the courthouse is original construction with original equipment. As a result, there has been an increasing failure rate related to mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Most of these systems have significantly exceeded their life expectancies and are either continually in need of repair or are likely to need repair in the near future. Further, the courthouse does not meet current building codes provided for basic life safety measures or the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. In reviewing how to address the future needs of the courthouse facility, a determination was made to review courthouse operations in addition to mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. This includes life, safety, and security needs, information technology needs, general operation needs, and compliance with current codes and regulations such as Department of Corrections, the jail, Supreme Court rules of the court system, American with Disabilities Act, and various other building codes. In 2019, the Building and Grounds Committee interviewed consultants to evaluate the operational needs of the courthouse. Potter Lawson and partners were selected as the design team and approved by the county board. During 2020, Potter Lawson's review of the courthouse consisted of reviewing mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems and advising of code deficiencies, security needs, technology needs, and necessary upgrades to meet the future demands of courthouse operations. This process included input from county staff and elected officials. In October 2020, after presentation to the Building and Grounds Committee, a report was prepared to the county board. This report included mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system analysis and a new space configuration to include 3 primary additions to the courthouse. The total project cost at that time was estimated at $33 million, with $17 million to replace the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Financing options were presented to the board and included discussion that interest was at historically low rates. On February 19th, a joint meeting of the Executive Committee, 5-0, Finance Committee, 5-0, and Buildings and Ground Committees, 4-1, determined it was appropriate to continue to evaluate the courthouse renovation project and also determined that additional design services were needed to finalize the scope of the project. This resolution approves the ongoing efforts to review and further define the scope of the courthouse facility renovation project and provide funding authorization for continued design work by amending the existing contract with Potter Lawson to provide additional services not to exceed $150,000, for which funding has been designated in the 2021 budget. This resolution does not authorize or obligate the county to commence any courthouse facility renovation or construction. Fiscal note: funds for the continuation of the contract with Potter Lawson, as described above, have been budgeted in the central services budget. No budget adjustment is necessary. I move for approval of this resolution.
Second,
What's the second?
Amy.
Supervisor Bernard. Questions, discussion? Supervisor Broadway.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been in all of these meetings and I am completely in favor of the renovations, but I'm not in favor of the final costs. And I am firmly believe that we need to trim that. So if the cost remains at the condition it is right now, I will be voting against it in the long term. There's just too much going on right now. We need to trim. I mentioned this in executive committee, voted for it there. But if this continues at the present state, it will lose my vote. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Questions, discussion? Supervisor Kennard.
I guess, I talked to Ben a little bit about this. What exactly are they doing for the to $150,000?
So based on the various committees, there's the desire to relook at various aspects, whether it was the space configuration, program design, the current mechanical systems that were spec to some more enhanced value engineering to look at options to decrease the cost. The number that they quoted is not a flat rate. This is up to at an hourly rate based on the demands and needs for the design services based on communication with the specifically Buildings and Grounds Committee. This quote was as though they were, I talked to Potter Lawson a little bit more yesterday, was as though they were starting all over again. And so based on the feedback they received from the joint meeting, we don't believe they'll be in the position of quote unquote starting all over. I think there's specific areas to look at for sure. I know the North Wayne example, the area we're sitting right now, with most of those departments. That's an area that needs to be focused in on in terms of that area. A little bit of the areas related to the court system. And I think for the most part with the sheriff's departments, the feedback I've received is there's a need there in terms of how that's configured. And so that price is a high end, so a lot of that cost is going to really be relevant in terms of feedback and ongoing requests for analysis made by the county.
Any other questions?
David.
I have, who's got their hand up?
Greg David.
Greg David. You got the floor, Mr. Supervisor David.
Thank you. I'll be voting in favor of this because it's going to look for a reassessment of the need of this. And while I think our world is in a state of extreme flux and that we may be preparing for our infrastructure facilities for needs that may not be necessary in the future, we may find the building outdated before it's complete. I do think that this is a reasonable step at this time to assess the need and the amount of change that we can do. For instance, so many people that I know are working from home now, and I just wonder how much of our staff can be able to work from home or build infrastructure to support it. So at this time, I will support it, but I do also have concerns about the price. Most of the people that I talk about do not want to spend this much money on the county infrastructure. But let's see where the dice fall and what goes from here forward. Thank you.
Supervisor Roberts, do you have your hand up? It flashed on my screen, but not. No. Yes, no, Supervisor Roberts? No, okay. Any other questions? Questions? Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote here.
Dan's been kicked out again.
He's off again.
Oh, no. Lloyd is updating.
He's off again.
We all are. I guess we'll have to do a verbal roll call vote.
Just for the course.
Some will work, some don't. Mine doesn't.
Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Supervisor David, Supervisor David,
Yes. Yes. I vote yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Zastro,
Yes.
Dan's right here. You can ask him.
Yes.
Oh, now it's done. Yeah, get back in. There you go.
27.
One, and then another. And then hit, oh, that's too many.
we have 27 yes,
Yeah,
1 no.
One too many.
Yes, because we have,
Too many there.
One
we have
absent,
Dan.
one absent, one vacant.
1 absent and 1 vacant.
Thank you. Takes us to the Finance Committee. Supervisor Jones, would you like to start out? Otherwise, Supervisor Jekyll said he will handle this if you're having any difficulties.
I got it.
Okay, Supervisor Jones, Finance Committee, first resolution disallowing a claim for John Abbott.
Resolution number 2020-49. A claim has been made against Jefferson County for damage to its mailbox during plowing operations by Jefferson County. This claim has been reviewed by the county's insurance carrier, Wisconsin Municipal Mutual Insurance Company, and was recommended for disallowance based on the finding that the county is not legally responsible for the alleged damages. This resolution formally denies the claim filed against Jefferson County and directs the Corporation Council to give the claimant Notice of disallowance. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on March 4th, 2021, and recommended forward to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note. This matter has been referred to the Wisconsin Municipal Mutual Insurance Company, WMIC, and will be resolved in accordance with the terms of the county policy. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Jacob. Any discussion, questions?
This is Supervisor David. I've had a constituent contact me about this, very concerned. His mailbox was also destroyed. I guess I would like clarification. When Supervisor Jones talks about the resolution or the problem being resolved by the insurance company, what would be that outcome? I just want to understand what is going to happen to my constituent. Will he be satisfied by the insurance payment, or will he have to just go out and fix his mailbox because we wrecked it? Thank you.
In answering Supervisor David's question, what we're doing here tonight with these resolutions, as we do with all of these resolutions denying a claim, we're not just denying the claim, saying we're not going to pay the claimant. What we're doing is we're limiting the time period that they have to sue Jefferson County if they believe they have a claim against Jefferson County, reducing the time period to 6 months. So after 6 months of the county board's denial, actually 6 months after they receive a copy of the denial, then they can no longer sue the county, and we can put that in our books and not have to worry about a lawsuit. So just to make sure the county board understands why we do this and the legal effect of this. In this situation, what we do is I added the language a number of years ago that any claimant whose claim has been denied by the county board can still work with the insurance company to seek resolution. That goes back to the fact that we don't want to keep these open. We don't want to negotiate them for an extended period of time because it's in the county's best interest to act on them formally and start the 6-month time period ticking so we know we're not going to be sued after 6 months. But even though we've denied it, there's nothing preventing a claimant, and I've encouraged some claimants to do this, to at least talk to our insurance company to see if there is a settlement that would be appropriate under these circumstances. So that's what that language in the fiscal note means, is that just because the county denied it doesn't mean there still can't be continued negotiations where the county would voluntarily settle this agreement. And just to give the county board some perspective on this, the highway department is aware of this claim. They went out, took a look at the mailbox and the post. They came to the conclusion that it was damaged not from a plow blade hitting the post, but from snow that was being plowed, pushing the post over. Whether that's a relevant distinction or not remains to be seen. And they also indicated that the post that was supporting the mailbox was substandard, and that they offered to assist Mr. Abbott to try to resolve this matter, and he didn't take them up on their offer. I don't know what type of assistance they offered, but I would encourage Mr. Abbott to contact the highway department if he is interested in resolving this claim, because the highway department is willing to work with him on this. Does that answer your question, Supervisor David?
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, not exactly. I appreciate the information that we're willing to work with the person involved, but I still, if the person feels that his need is not addressed and he goes to the insurance company, what happens then if he has to sue the insurance company? Is that just our constituents pouring money down a hole and not getting just compensation? I feel we should be responsible for our actions. If we were truly at blame for causing the mailbox to fall down, unless it was substandard, then our constituents should have just recourse, I feel. So please tell me, what happens when they go to claim against the insurance company? How do most of them turn out? Do some of them get their money? Tell me a little bit about that, please.
I'm not aware of many claims going to the insurance company. We deny a lot of claims, and on every claim we deny, it has that language on the bottom, but I'm not aware of any claimants subsequently following up with our insurance company seeking to settle the claim. We rely on our insurance company quite a bit for advice on claims against the county, and base our decisions in large part on their recommendations. So what would happen if there was a claimant who contacted our insurance company? We would get a response from our insurance adjuster, and we would have a recommendation on whether or not to settle. And the county administrator has the ability to settle claims that are within a certain dollar amount, certainly within this dollar amount. And as far as a lawsuit, they could certainly sue Jefferson County if they wanted to, and then the insurance company would provide legal counsel to represent the county's interest, and then it would be determined in court. The thing that needs to be recognized here is that the counties, and I think you all know this, have sovereign immunity, governmental immunity, caps on damages, and that's what prevents the counties from being sued, and that's what discourages many people from suing the county, because in many situations they're not likely going to win. We've seen claims from cars damaged from potholes, people stepping through a deck on the park and injuring themselves. And in a normal situation, if it was a private person being sued, there'd be a valid lawsuit. But if you think of a governmental operation, city operation, county, state, how much are they involved with? They're involved with everything. And if the city or county or state could be sued for every time there was a pothole, every time there was a mailbox plowed over, then that could result in many lawsuits. Doesn't mean we can't pay it. But if we want to go down that road, I think we need to do so knowingly. If we pay for this one, for example, is there another mailbox that's going to be requested for reimbursement? Is there going to be 10 or 20? What about the pothole damage to the cars? So we need to look at these, and it's certainly something worth discussion. And I could certainly support a situation where the county would say, yeah, that was really an egregious or something unfortunate that happened, and I think we should pay. That could happen in theory. I haven't seen it yet, but at this point, it's appropriate to say that Mr. Abbott can talk to our insurance company and me, and we can try to work towards a resolution. But legally, my opinion is there's no obligation to do so.
Thank you. Supervisor Lund had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I share the same concerns as Supervisor David, that I guess I was under the impression that every time we deny one of these claims, that then they are resolved through our insurance company. And, I understand the doctrine of sovereign immunity and the harm that could happen to the county if there were the floodgate of lawsuits was open. I also see the individual taxpayer's interest in that something that the county did damage their property in some way, and we deny these claims regularly. That if they are not justly compensated, I think they've been done wrong. So it's no easy solution, but I do share those concerns that Supervisor David voiced.
Supervisor Smith, you have a question?
Yes, I'm wondering, is there something put into the record if the driver knowingly hit a mailbox, that it's somehow documented?
That I don't know. Supervisor Kennard?
I was wondering, if we get a few of these, there ain't no hundreds of them, but there are a few every winter. If the highway shop would go out and just, fix the darn things, it'd be a whole lot less costly than all of this stuff, I guess. They've got the manpower and the equipment to do it. I mean, it wouldn't be a big undertaking, especially when they're pretty obvious that they hit it or whatever.
That was part of my question too. By the time we deny it and go through all this, it's going to cost a lot more than if it was just fixed.
Well, right now we don't have a policy for this, so, or at least if you want an updated policy, we could certainly have somebody suggest one, and I'm sure the highway committee will entertain the discussion. I see Supervisor Jacob nodding his head up and down. Waymire.
What we can do with the commissioner, there is a policy of a rural mailbox replacement policy, and we can bring that forward as well. So the board and committee are aware of that policy.
That would be great. We'll have more winters in the future, so. Any other questions? Any other questions? All in favor of this resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Yeah. It passes. Finance Committee, Mr. Jaco, resolution amending the 2021 Land and Water Conservation Budget.
Chairman, this is Supervisor Jones. I got it. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Resolution number 2020-50. Certain industries and municipalities in Wisconsin are authorized to discharge treated wastewater via a pipe into a water body. When treated wastewater contains phosphorus, the amount of phosphorus discharged into water bodies is regulated by the state of Wisconsin. Industries and municipalities facing a requirement to reduce their phosphorus discharge are permitted to petition the state of Wisconsin for a variance, which will allow them more time to comply with state wastewater discharge requirements. During the time extension, facilities are required to reduce their phosphorus discharge and implement a watershed project to help reduce phosphorus pollution that enters water bodies from the land non-point sources. Among the options for implementing a watershed project, facilities can choose to make a payment in the amount of $50 times the number of pounds of phosphorus that exceed their targeted phosphorus discharge. The funds are then offered to the county land and water conservation departments located in their watershed area. In 2020, 5 facilities in the Upper Rock River watershed and 1 facility in the Middle Rock River watershed elected to use the multiple discharge variance and choose to allocate funds to land and water conservation departments in their watershed area. A portion of Jefferson County is located in the Upper and Middle Rock River watersheds, and therefore funds were allocated to the program in Jefferson County to implement projects that reduce phosphorus non-point sources. Fiscal note. This is a budget amendment that increases revenue and expenditures by $20,777. Funds can offset the work of a staff to implement the program. This resolution authorizes the county finance director to make the budget adjustments necessary to enact this resolution. As a budget amendment, county board approval requires a 2/3 vote in the entire membership of the county board. 20 members of the 30-member county board must vote in favor of the budget amendment. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Questions. Seeing none, this requires a roll call vote. This is a budget amendment.
Supervisor Herbst, Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Supervisor David,
Yes, I vote yes.
Supervisor Nass.
Yes.
Twenty-seven yes. 0 no, 1 abstain, and 1 absent, 1 vacant.
Supervisor Jones, resolution increasing cremation permit fee.
Resolution number 2020-51. The current amount charged for a cremation permit by Jefferson County Medical Examiner is $208. State Statute 59.365 limits fee increases for services rendered by a coroner or medical examiner to an amount not to exceed the annual percentage change in U.S. Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, as determined by the U.S. Department of Labor for the 12 months ending on December 31 of the year before the increase. The CPI-U for 2020 was 1.4%. This resolution increases the current cremation permit fee from $208 to $210, which is within the limits established by the state statute. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on March 4th, 2020, and that should be 21, I would think, and recommended forwarding to the county board for approval. Fiscal note. This resolution will increase the fee established in the 2021 budget for cremation permits from $208 to $210 in accordance with state statutes 59.365. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 out of 30 affirmative votes for passage. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second. And second was again Supervisor Draco. Discussion? Questions? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote again.
Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Supervisor David,
Yes.
Supervisor Herbst, Supervisor Knapp.
Yes.
Twenty-eight yes, one absent, one vacant.
And the resolution passes. The next resolution, accepting bids for telecommunications tower site shelters. Supervisor Jones.
Resolution number 2020-52. On March 2nd, 2021, the Sheriff's Office received bids from vendors for shelters at its 911 emergency telecommunication tower site. The Sheriff's Office and members of Jefferson County Administration team reviewed the bids and recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize the County Administrator to enter into a contract with the Thermobond for tower site shelters in the amount of $330,950. The Finance Committee reviewed this resolution at the March 4th, 2021 meeting and recommending forward to the County Board of Supervisors for approval. As you can see, those are the companies that bid and the bids that they made. Fiscal note, the tower site shelters are included in the 911 telecommunication infrastructure project and will be funded with the Series 2020 AA bond proceeds. No budget adjustment is necessary. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second by Supervisor Morris. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, this is a simple voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Next resolution, authorizing a year-end request to carry over budget appropriations from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2021 and amending the 2021 budget. Supervisor Jones.
Before I read these next two resolutions, I would just like to make a statement and report that the Jefferson County presently is in a very strong financial position, especially compared to the fears we had at this time last year. Decisions made last spring and summer by administration, department heads, the CARES Act, and the cooperation of our employees put Jefferson County in a very favorable position. This will allow us to move forward with the opportunity to make positive choices. Thank you. Resolution number 2020-53. At year end, departments are required to submit carryover requests for funds that are unspent. If the county administrator approves the request, it is reviewed by the Finance Committee and acted on by the County Board for approval. There is a total of $50,311,984.16 proposed to be carried over from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2021. And of this amount, $22,223,089.04 requires County Board approval. The Finance Committee recommends that funds of $22,223,089.04 be carried over from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2021. The Finance Committee is also recommending amendment of the 2021 budget to restore the steps into the compensation package for employees, along with the mid-year cost of living increase of 1% that was not budgeted originally due to the uncertainty in the economy. The Finance Committee is also recommending to restore Water Resource Manager position to full-time status, with the remainder of the salary and benefits amounts needed to restore this position to full-time being funded by an increase in the sales tax revenue budget. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its March 4th, 2021 meeting and recommended forward to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 of 30 affirmative votes for passage. Explanation of governmental funds. Non-spendable funds are funds that include prepaid items, deposits, and inventory accounts. Spendable restricted funds are funds that are legally restricted by statute, contracts, or funding source. Spendable Committed funds are funds that are spendable at the discretion of the county. Explanation of proprietary funds like highway. Capital net position represents items that are depreciated along with the land which is not depreciated. Restricted net position relates to the municipal deposit for subsequent year work by the county. Non-restricted net positions include both required items and discretionary items. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second.
The motion, the second
Renard.
was by Supervisor Renard. Thank you. Discussion, questions? Supervisor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to go on record of saying this, okay? So we go through the budget process and then we get to November and we approve the budget. And when we approve the budget, we're always advised that if we want to introduce a budget amendment at that time, we can introduce an amendment and we might have 2, 3, 4, 5 amendments. We talked about the water resource manager back at the budget process. And so then we do those and then we vote and we have a budget. But then if you start counting up the amount of budget amendments we have, you know, for the 11 other meetings that we have in a year, we can have 1, 2, 3, 4 budget amendments almost every month, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to say is the budget amendments in November seem to be, I don't know, a way to grandstand, a way to take a position on something. Whereas the budget we do in December, January, February, they're far more expedient and far more useful for us. And so I just wonder sometime if the Rules Committee shouldn't somehow address this, or perhaps the Finance Committee. I really don't mind an amendment coming up in November. It just seems to be overkill when we have budget amendments every other month of the year. And I wish I could tell you that I have a solution for that. And I'm not necessarily sure that it's a problem looking for a solution either. I just want to point it out to all of us that sometimes those November budget amendments to me are just so funny. I mean, for all I know, we could have had a knockdown, drag-out fight over the water resource manager position. And here we are a couple months later saying, hey, we got the money, we're going to do it. So I want to move forward on our amendments and budget amendments in particular. And if there's a way to reduce the drama of the November amendments, that would be really nice. Thank you.
22 years on the board, I wouldn't agree with you more, but Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say a word about what Supervisor Morris just mentioned. Regarding the water resources specialist position, there was a lot of support from the community in terms of letters and phone calls seeking to have that restored to a full-time position. That didn't there was a couple of amendments. I had one, not directly for that, but tangent to that. The ones that were proposed for making it a full-time position and fully funded, the people that asked for that, I think, were placated by the assurance of Administrator Waymire that we would be looking to find funds for that position later on in the year. And lo and behold, here we are. And they've kept their word. They've been straight with us and they did a good job. I just don't think, based on the supervisors who recommended in a budget amendment earlier, that they were grandstanding when they were responding to citizen requests. Thank you.
Supervisor Lund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to agree with Supervisor Christensen on that, as one of the supervisors who sponsored that budget amendment on the water resource management position, that came wholly as a grassroots effort from constituents and other county residents that approached us with serious concerns about it, and that's was the genesis of it. I also see Supervisor Morris's point about that we do budget amendments throughout the year and with much less drama. I don't know what the solution is, but I do see Supervisor Morris's point as well. Thank you.
Other questions, discussion? Seeing none.
Supervisor Jones.
Oh, Supervisor Jones has his hand up. Okay. I apologize, Supervisor Jones. I apologize to everybody on Zoom because the screen is behind me, so it's difficult to see who's got their hand up. Thank you.
I understand, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the discussion here, I guess I see two different types of amendments. The ones in November give an individual supervisor opportunity to have a say in the budget and make recommendations pro or con. The ones that we seem to make throughout the year, a lot of times are approving grant money that's come in or changes from the finance department that just because of changes of the natural events of the year, we have to make these adjustments. So I think our present system is pretty civilized, and I think we do a pretty decent job. And it gives everyone a chance to have that opportunity to speak. And so, thank you.
Anyone else with their hand? Is it Supervisor Lund? Is your hand up? Okay. I guess not. Anyone else? Anyone else? Question? Supervisor Winnicky.
Yeah, this is not on the water management position at all, but I do want to make a very quick point on the 1% cost of living allowance and the restoration of the steps. And that is basically just bravo. Mr. Waymire, Mr. DeVries, the Finance Committee. I know what happened. I know that they would like to do this. It's fair we do it, but times are uncertain and we don't know that if we can do it or not. And now there's clarity. The money's come out better than hoped. And we've taken a step, basically give our word to the people and the employees of Jefferson County. And I just think that's wonderful. So, bravo.
Thank you, Supervisor Winnicky. Supervisor Paulson.
I'd like to make a motion to separate the water resources manager from this. Can we do that?
Make the motion. Do you have a second? Second by Supervisor Jekyll. Discussion on separation of that position from this amendment. Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote on whether to separate this position from the amendment or not. All in favor of separation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. I believe the noes have it. Supervisor Paulson, you can request a roll call. Okay. So we're back to the amendment. We're back to the amendment to the budget, but it's actually a resolution, the original resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, excuse me.
Aye.
Excuse me. This is a, I'm sorry, this has to be a roll call. I'm sorry, my apologies. All right, working now.
Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Supervisor David,
Yes.
Supervisor Herbst, (27) yes, 1 no, I'm sorry, that should be 28 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent,
One vacant. One vacant.
and 1 vacant. So it is 27.
Right.
27 yes, 1
had it
no,
right.
or 1 absent, 1 vacant.
We okay with the math now? All right. Okay. Next resolution, authorizing contingency fund transfer to offset fiscal year 2020 department deficits. Supervisor Jones.
Resolution number 2020-54. At year end, the county administrator requests a budget transfer from contingency or general fund to offset department deficit. This request is reviewed by the finance committee and acted on by the county board for approval. This resolution will authorize increasing revenues received from the coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security, or CARES Act funding in the amount of $1,765,300, and from the bond premium in the amount of $111,811, and transferring $7,101 from the contingency fund to various county departments due to expenditures in excess of appropriations in the fiscal year 2020. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at the March 4th, 2021 meeting and recommended forward to the county board for approval. Fiscal note, which is quite long, but I think it really got some neat examples of things that where the money was spent, and a lot of positive things here. Jefferson County received CARES funding to assist with on-plan expenses in relation to responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, and is adjusting the 2020 budget revenues and expenditures by $1,765,300 to account for this on-planned activity. And Jefferson County issued Series 2020A debt at a premium during March of 2020, and this premium was utilized to pay the first interest payment of $111,811 due in October of 2020. And the contingency fund has a balance of $527,534, of which $7,101 is needed to offset expenditures in excess of appropriations for 2020. The county incurred expenses for the construction of towers that supported both the new 911 infrastructure and the high-speed broadband internet services that was reimbursed by a grant from the Wisconsin Public Service Commission in the amount of $1,118,754. These expenses flowed through the county administrator's department. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Sheriff Department released most of its Huber inmates from the county jail and converted to a mobile inmate GPS tracking system to minimize risk of spreading infection. Further, alternate remote testing was established for the alcohol treatment court and drug treatment court. This service was contracted at an additional cost of $151,100 and was reimbursed by the CARES funding. Central Services purchased a bioprotective spray that significantly reduced the cost of daily sanitizing and contracted services to thoroughly clean the ductworks of all county facilities to provide the public and staff with a safe environment to work and to do business. These additional expenses were reimbursed by CARES funding. The county clerk purchased a remote voting system that allowed the county board of supervisors to participate in public meetings remotely. The clerk also incurred additional expenses for printing absentee ballots during the 2020 elections. These expenses were reimbursed by CARES funding. Autopsy fees were higher than anticipated in the medical examiner's department. The health department incurred additional expenses for COVID-19 testing and contact tracing, and they were reimbursed by CARES funding. In March of 2020, the county issued Series 2020A bond for improvement to the South Campus facility, as well as improvements to its 911 emergency telecommunication system. The first interest payment on this issue was not budgeted and was due in October of 2020. The payment was funded by a premium that the county received for the debt issued. The county began its fleet management program in 2020. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 out of 30 affirmative votes from the total membership of the county board for passage. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second from Supervisor Paulson. Discussion. Questions? Seeing none, again, this will take a roll call vote.
Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Supervisor David,
Yes.
Supervisor Herbst. 28 yes, 1 absent, 1 vacant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Which takes us now to the Highway Committee. Supervisor Jekyll, Supervisor Schultz, you worked out what you can do? Okay. Just for the board's information here, we were not sure whether Supervisor Jones was going to be able to make it tonight. And so Supervisor Jekyll offered to take all of the Finance Committee things, and Supervisor Schultz, so Supervisor Jekyll wasn't speaking the whole night. So since we've got Supervisor Jones here, Supervisor Jekyll, Highway Committee, authorization to sell remnant parcel of county-owned real property.
Now, Ben, is this pink one the real one for the thing, or is it the one we had in our packet that I picked up tonight? I didn't see much difference.
Pink one.
Yeah, the pink one. And once we introduce it, Supervisor Jekyll, it's Corporation Council, and we'll talk through some of the changes to help clarify a few comments.
Resolution number 2020-55. The Jefferson County Corporation Council was contacted by Badger Rentals LLC seeking to purchase 2 remnant parcels of real property owned by Jefferson County for $25,000 that adjoin North Watertown Avenue and Masters Drive. One parcel is located in the city of Jefferson, designated as 24-7, and one parcel is located in the town of Ascalon, designated as 31-68. These parcels of property were originally purchased by the state of Wisconsin for Highway 26 construction purposes and subsequently conveyed to Jefferson County by the state in 2017. For reference, Masters Drive is located to the north of the property being sold and is designated as parcel 24-6. Masters Drive is not included in this sale. The Highway Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 23rd, 2021, and recommended forwarding it to the County Board for approval. And fiscal note, the county will receive $25,000 for the sale of this property, and proceeds will be deposited in the capital funds project. Mr. Chair, I move for approval of the resolution.
Second from Supervisor Paulson. If your question of what this piece of property is, there's a map that's available. Was a map available on the table there too? Yeah. Supervisor, or excuse me. Any questions? Discuss it. I will pass this over to Mr. Ward.
The changes between the version in your packet and the version that has been handed out tonight deal with making reference more clear to the parcels of property. There were a couple of questions after the packet was distributed regarding the map on the back. And if you look at the map, you can see 2 parcels. There's actually 3, but you can see a parcel to the north on the top, which is in blue. And then you see the parcel or parcels on the bottom to the south, which are also in blue. The parcel on the top in blue is Masters Drive, and the executive summary says that it's there for reference, just to give you an idea of where this property is located. Masters Drive is not part of the sale, and that was a question that I got a couple times. If the county board approves this resolution, it will be not be selling Masters Drive, only the parcels to the south. And I found out today that the parcels to the south are 2 parcels. I previously thought it was just 1 parcel marked as 24-7. There's a line that bisects that parcel. Below that, I typed in 31-68. And the reason we had to designate it as 2 separate parcels is because the 24-7 is in the city of Jefferson. Parcel to the south, 3168, is in the town of Ascalon. So they have 2 parcel numbers, and I wanted to make that clear. The offer to purchase recognizes that there are 2 parcels there, and those 2 parcels are the subject of the sale that the county board is considering tonight. And that summarizes my changes to the resolution and why I had to present it slightly differently tonight, just to avoid any questions or confusion on what was being sold. Are there any additional questions?
Supervisor Smith.
Supervisor.
Property has been appraised
And if this went up for a public auction, how did they find a buyer?
I was contacted by Christopher Nash on behalf of Badger Rentals LLC offering to purchase the property. And he's here tonight with his partner, Ty Neipert, and I asked them to be here to answer questions such as that. I don't know if they can answer those specific questions, but I would ask them to do their best at answering that question. If you could take the podium.
Please come right up to the front. And just introduce yourself to everybody.
Chris Nash, I'm a member of Badger Rentals LLC. We approached the county. We own the property to the east there. We are also the developers where the hotel and gas station are. And we have some potential buyers that are looking at this property. And so we'd like to at least clear up the lot lines and what have you over there. So.
You have any questions, Mr. Nash? Supervisor Nealon.
So when I look at the map, the two areas, is it one person that owns the property to the east and the west?
Two separate owners. We own this parcel here, and Spanum owns that parcel there.
Okay.
Other questions?
Was this appraised, or how'd they come up with a value?
Supervisor Smith.
The purchasers made an offer to the county. County counter offered to increase the price, and that offer was accepted. So it was negotiated between the county and the buyer. There was no formal appraisal done on this property.
Any other questions?
And we've checked to make sure that there's no easements or anything like that going through this property to any of the adjacent properties.
The purchasers or prospective purchasers offered to purchase the property as is, but I will tell you that when this property was conveyed from the state of Wisconsin to Jefferson County for $1 in 2017, the deed did have restrictions that run with the land indefinitely, and it would include any owner of the property. And just so the county board is aware of what those restrictions are, no advertising signs or billboards of any type shall be located, erected, or maintained on the property except for on-premises signs. All existing public and private utilities and public recreational trails located on the properties shall remain. So that's a summary of what that means. And the offer to purchase specifically says that the property is taken as is. And as purchasers, they're expected to know of these requirements or limitations or restrictions on the land. And the deed conveying the property to the county also says that if any subsequent owner violates these conditions, the state has the right to take them to court to enforce the conditions. So yes, there are general easements over the property, but they aren't affected by this sale.
Any other questions? Questions? Any questions for Mr. Nash? Thank you very much. Any questions of a general nature here of our corporate counsel? Okay.
Supervisor Smith does.
Supervisor Smith.
If neighboring properties, what kind of value do they have? Like per acre? Anybody knows? This just strikes me as being very inexpensive land right off the top of a highway that to me is probably worth more than we're selling it for.
I don't know if we have an answer to that. Mr. Nash is going to take a shot at it.
When we purchased the property to the east of here, we paid $12,000 an acre for that, and I think we're at about 2.2 acres for this parcel.
What year was that purchased?
How do you recall? 2 years? 3 years ago?
Okay.
2 years ago, then about 12,000 an acre. So that this is right in the ballpark. It's 2.26 acres, or excuse me, 2.94 acres. Other question? Seeing none, I believe we can do this with a simple voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Next resolution, accepting 2021 asphalt pulverizing and milling quotes.
Resolution number 2020-56. On February 16, 2021, the Highway Department received quotes from area vendors for asphalt pulverizing and milling. The Highway Department schedules all projects to work on site with the select vendor. The resolution authorizes Jefferson County Highway Department to accept the seasonal quotes for 2021 from all vendors listed below, utilizing the lowest priced vendor unless the vendor cannot meet the project schedule of the department, in which case the next lowest priced vendor shall be used. The Highway Committee considered the resolution on its meeting on February 23rd, 2021, and recommended forwarding it to Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to accept the quotes as listed below. Fiscal funds have been allocated in 2021 highway maintenance account and highway construction accounts. Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of this resolution.
Now, second. Second by Supervisor Schultz. Any further discussion? Questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes. Next resolution, accepting local asphalt bids.
Resolution 2020-57. Jefferson County Highway Department obtains funding through the Wisconsin Department of Transportation Local Road Improvement Program for select projects. The 2021 Jefferson County bid 5 projects that includes funding from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation and Local Road Improvement Program for asphalt material purchase. This resolution awards the asphalt bid for 2021 Local Road Improvement Project for Jefferson County Highway N, Town of Jefferson, Curtis Mill Road, Village of Johnson Creek, Hartwig Boulevard, Village of Palmyra, Northwest Street, and Village of Sullivan, Main Street, to Payne and Dolan Incorporated. The Highway Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 23rd, 2021, and recommended forwarding it to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to accept the bid as listed below. Fiscal note, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation requires asphalt purchase projects through the Local Road Improvement Program be awarded to a paving contractor. The funds for the asphalt purchases will come from the Wisconsin DOT Local Road Improvement Program. Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of this resolution.
No, second. Second from Supervisor Paulson. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Resolution accepting 2020 pre-mixed mixed asphalt vendor quotes.
Resolution number 2020-58. On February 16, 2021, Jefferson, the Highway Department received quotes from all area vendors for pre-mixed asphalt. The Highway Department purchases the asphalt from the vendors and delivers material to the job site for placement by county crews. The vendor selected by the county will be determined by the location of the project and the plant location to obtain the best price for each project. This resolution authorizes Jefferson County Highway Department to purchase pre-mixed asphaltic concrete products at the prices listed below from any of the asphalt vendors in 2021. The Highway Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 23rd, 2021, and recommended forwarding to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to accept the quotes listed below. Fiscal note, the Highway Department will determine the best price for each project when selecting a plant location. The department will also consider plant schedule, availability, and production rates. Funds have been allocated in 2021 maintenance account and the highway construction account. I move for passage of this resolution.
Second.
We have a second from Supervisor Schultz. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And one last one, accepting 2021 field coat oil vendor.
Resolution 2020-59. On February 16, 2021, the Highway Department received bids from area vendors for seal coat emulsions. Contractor provides emulsions and transportation to the county job sites. Vendors selected by the county will be determined by the location of the project and the plant location to obtain the best price for each project. This resolution authorizes Jefferson County Highway Department to purchase emulsions products from the vendors listed below at stated bid prices. The Highway Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 23rd, 2021, and recommended forwarding it to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to accept the quotes listed below. Funds come from the highway maintenance account and the highway construction account. I move for adoption of this resolution.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Second, Supervisor Phillips and Supervisor Paulson. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes. Next is item 13, Human Resources Committee report update regarding Resolution 2020-14, approving suspension of personnel policy provisions. So on page 54, do you have anything to add to this, Supervisor Butler? So, Mr. Wayman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an update of where we're at. We're continuing to look at the various trends that we're specifically seeing related to as our numbers are going down and vaccines are rolling. Some of those guidelines have already changed at the CDC and DHS level, so those are things that we'll continue to monitor going forward. Our intent, as we talk to the HR committee, is as we look at some of these rules, as we are moving towards a direction, is starting to talk about what are more normalized and what are and more permanent policies. So an example I'm going to use with that is what Supervisor David brought up is pre-COVID. If you may recall, we were starting to have conversations about what does telecommuting look like for county staff. And so as we look at coming out of there, is that conversation is what were some of those lessons learned that we bring back to the county board for more permanent rule changes going forward. So that's something we'll be looking at going ahead to the future, but just understand that we're looking at, as we come through the next few months, that we're going to be looking at some recommendations coming back to the HR committee and county board. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Waymire? So now we'll move on to the item 14. Mr. Jaco again. Report on the approval of petitions for planning and zoning.
Report to the honorable members of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held on February 18, 2021, as required by law pursuant to Wisconsin's statutes. Notice thereof having been given and being duly advised of the wishes of the town boards and persons in the areas affected, hereby makes the following recommendations. Approval of petitions as listed, dated this 22nd day of February 2021. Blaine Paulson, Secretary. And that moves on to ordinance number 2020. Amending official zoning map. Whereas Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has heretofore been petitioned to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, and whereas petitions as listed were referred to the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee for public hearing on February 18th, 2021, and whereas proposed amendments have been given due consideration by the Board of Supervisors in open session. Now therefore be it ordained that Jefferson County Board of Supervisors amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County as follows. Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of this ordinance.
As printed.
As printed, thank you.
Supervisor Kennard,
I will abstain for potential conflict of interest.
do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Supervisor Backlund. Supervisor White, you had a question?
I must abstain also for potential conflict.
Let that be noted. Anyone else? Questions? Discussion? All in favor of this ordinance, say aye.
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 Opposed? And we have 2 abstentions. Takes us to item 15, appointments by county administrator. Mr. Waymire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. By virtue of the authority vested in me in section 9.18, parent 2, parent B of the Wisconsin State Statutes, I respectfully request confirmation of the following appointments. Mr. Brandon White of Jefferson, Wisconsin, the Veteran Service Commission to fill an unexpired term ending December 13, 2021. Mr. Kirk Bond of Lakeville, Wisconsin, the Human Services Board to fill an unexpired term ending November 1st, 2021. Mr. Greg Hash of Cambridge, Wisconsin, to the Jefferson County Library Board to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2023. And Ms. Christine Spangler of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, the Sheriff's Civil Service Commission for a 5-year term ending January 1st, 2026. I respectfully request confirmation of these appointments.
Second by Mr. Paulson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bogler. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the appointments are approved. And proclamation. Supervisor Winnicky.
I thought I was only doing the second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to do the first one?
I'll do the first one then. Proclamation 2025. Congratulating the Lake Mills School, Lake Mills High School girls basketball team on their Division III state basketball championship. Lake Mills High School girls basketball team won the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association Division III State Basketball Championship Friday, February 26, 2021. And whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors supports achievement, athletics, and extracurricular activities, as well as academic achievement among the county's youth. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors, assembled this 9th day of March 2021, extends its hearty congratulations to the Lake Mills High School girls basketball team, coaches, parents, staff, students, and fans for their WA State Basketball Championship, and wishes them success and good health in their future athletic and academic pursuits. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Unfortunately, the boys made it too, but lost in the semifinals. How much energy?
I think by now it's apparent why I was deferring back to you on that, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, proclamation 2020, 26? 6, I'm sorry. Proclaiming the month of April 2021 as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a complex and ongoing problem in our society, affecting many people in Jefferson County, and whereas every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, nurtured, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect, and whereas it is a responsibility for every adult who comes in contact with a child to protect that child's inalienable right to a safe and nurturing childhood. And whereas Jefferson County has many dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child maltreatment and to help parents obtain the assistance they need, and whereas our communities are stronger when all citizens become aware of child maltreatment prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among families, social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas the Human Services Board
at its February 9th, 2021 meeting, unanimously voted to forward this proclamation to the County Board of Supervisors for adoption. Now, therefore it be resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of April 2021 to be Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month. The fiscal note, adoption of this proclamation will not have any fiscal impact to the county other than the expenditure of staff time, and promotional activities will be funded by outside private donations. Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Thank you. Second for that? Supervisor Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, the proclamation is accepted. Public comment of a general nature. Do we have any? Announcements. Just a reminder, next month, our meeting's a week later. It's on April 20th it's at 5 p.m., not 7. So just make note of that on your calendars. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Anybody still shoveling their driveways? Excellent. I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Second. And this is not debatable. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.